spotlight and then record? What do you want to spotlight as well, or whatever you do
Yes.
these?
Oh, yes.
Like these, yeah. Oh, but you do it
Oh,
there. You do
you
it
did
there.
it. Somebody did it.
Yeah. No, but you, yeah, okay. Just
Wasn't
make
me.
sure it's there. Okay, so let's start now. We have many things, we're going to talk about. So we are here together again, one more Tuesday, almost the last one. Next week is going to be the last one, and we've been surviving for 4 months now. Incredible, incredible, incredible. And the idea of these teachings were to really approach the Buddhist path and really give us a little bit of understanding. And I always say that, the Lamrim, which is the gradual path towards enlightenment, which is the goal of Buddhism. Enlightenment is the goal of Buddhism. Mahayana Buddhism, this what we are aspiring here is to achieve enlightenment. And enlightenment is that state of completely freedom from all the sufferings and the causes of suffering. And it's a state of full perfection, or making our positive mental states, positive qualities, unconditional and completely unlimited towards all beings, right? So that is the mental state. So enlightenment is a mental state. So that's what we need. So the gradual path, when we are talking about a path, we're talking mostly, or entirely, but we're also going to use our bodies and we're going to do things, but especially it's a mental path. It's a state that we are building up the different, especially developing what we call the three types of wisdom, which is the wisdom of learning, the wisdom of contemplating, and the wisdom of meditating in certain topics and certain kind of themes that will help us develop or create the causes and the conditions for enlightenment to arise. So enlightenment is not something that we can kind of create in the sense of, go to the supermarket and get it, or, order on Amazon or something like this. We can't do that. It's something that we create, the simply arises. So it's like a flower, if you think about it. Flowers, they can only exist if we have seeds, if we have, conditions for all of these seeds and the sprouts and the water and all of that to arise. So then the flower is the result, right, of that seed and those conditions coming together. So enlightenment is the same. Enlightenment is the result of those causes and conditions coming together and we achieving that mental state. So we need to cultivate, we need to really ingrain our minds into cultivating those different mental states, and especially these two types of mental states, the positive ones, the ones that we already have, like love, compassion, kindness, patience, and right now they are limited, they are kind of conditioned, right? They are kind of okay, I love you if you love me back, I like you if you like me back. What I get from it, it was like, what is in it for me? That's now how we kind of express our good qualities, right? Is as long as I'm getting something out of it, then I can do whatever you want. I can be kind, nice, I can be many things. So that is one part. But the second part is also very important, which is understanding and realizing how our minds right now are creating suffering for ourselves and others. So these two mental states are very important for us to understand, and especially what we have been studying until now is understanding how the mind works, right? We can understand the possibility for us to actually accomplish this aim of enlightenment. So for us to actually develop a mind of enlightenment, we need to understand that the causes for our sufferings are mainly two, but then out of these two there's another one, so it's three, but actually one is subtle, and then you have two main ones and then a subtle one of that. So the two mental states that we've been talking about, that is the cause of our suffering, is the negative emotions, the disturbing emotions, right? And the disturbing emotions, we've talked quite a lot already about, the anger, attachment, pride, and I saw that Jason is there. So, pride. Every time I talk about pride, I think about Jason, And then we talk about, impatience and low self esteem and anxiety and all of those negative mental states. So, all of these, they are called disturbing emotions because they disturb our peace of mind now, and worse. They create, in a way, it's kind of like the egg and the chicken. They create, but they also are created by what we call habitual patterns or karma, right? And where these two things come from, they come from what we call this wrong view, this incorrect, this misunderstanding, this misconception, this misapprehension of what reality is and the way reality appears to us. So we talk quite a lot about that actually, which has been great because you guys are amazing and very kind and very smart. So we talk quite a lot about that misconception about how things are, right? And how things are. Things are dependent on causes and conditions. We just discussed that. We said the flower needs the seed, and needs the water, needs the soil, needs the sun, needs all of these causes and conditions for it to arise. And the moment that the flower arises, we say that the flower has parts. We say that the flower has parts, right? So it's like there's the stem and there's the bulb and there's the petals, and all of these things create what we call flower, right? And then out of these causes and conditions, these parts coming together, there is a mind calling that cause, those causes and conditions, those parts coming together. And guess what? Those causes and conditions and those parts coming together, they are impermanent. They are always changing, right? They are not static. They are not just there and stay forever. Otherwise, can you imagine? It's like buying a plastic flower. Plastic flower are static. Not even plastic flower are static, because actually if you leave it outside or if you leave it for many years, it also gets bad, right? So not in the same way that it gets bad of real flour, right? But then, so those causes and conditions that are constantly changing, and that moment that they arise, so the seed is one moment of the flower, if you think about it, the bulb is another moment, the steam and then when we have those conditions coming together, there is a mental action that sees those causes and conditions and that group of things coming together, and we label that flower. What happens in that moment that I label it flower? Appears a solid, self existing, always present, permanent flower. But remember, we talked about it. If I'm going to go back and say, okay, which of these parts is actually the flower? If I take one petal, all the petals, if I take the bulb, if I take the stem, which of these are actually the flower, right? In itself. Flower that I can point with my finger and say, this is the flower. And then all the causes and conditions needed for those to arise. And even the steam has many little things, even atoms and all of that. Which of these atoms is the flower? Nothing is. Nothing can be found in that inherent self-existing way called flower. There is only, as we say, causes and conditions coming together and being merely labeled by our minds. That's reality in Buddhism. That is the definition of reality. The problem is that the definition of reality is what it is, but how it appears to us. An inherent flower, a self-sufficient flower, an independent flower, independent of these causes and conditions, a permanent flower. If it was permanent, if it was in this way, then it would never change. It would continue the same. It would be like the fake flower, right? It would stay like that. However, it doesn't happen like this. The flower, if we don't water, and even if we water at some point, especially me, I'm the flower killer, Sharon is there. Sharon knows, that without her, the flowers at the center always go bad because I don't know how to take care of them, And then the flower starts to actually die. And then at that moment, when those causes and conditions come together, we call a dead flower. The same flower that we really thought, right? Because we don't think, we don't accept that things are in this way, what happens is that when we see the flower, we think that the flower is self-existing, right? Existing from their own side. And what I do is that I then like this flower because it's, red, and I like red. So then what do? I create that attachment to the flower. I grasp to that flower, to that permanence of that flower, and I say, oh, this flower is beautiful. I need this flower. If I don't have this flower, I'm going to be sad. I need this flower to be happy. That's what happens. Right? So then, because of these wrong ideas and wrong views, as we say, because of that, those negative emotions, and then if the someone steals my flower, someone's like kills the flower, or the flower is stole, or someone destroys the flower, something like that, then I become angry. So, because of these wrong misconceptions, these negative emotions arise. And because of our negative emotions, what we do when we are under the influence of that, because someone took my flower, I become very angry. And then what I do, I say things, I act, even punch someone because of that, right? And my mind is completely crazy, say, oh, this person very bad, da 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 da. So I act with body, speech, and mind. I act out of these with the belief that the flower is important and it is the idea. Okay, so that is the cause for our suffering, and that is the problem which we cannot, what we are trying to be free from, what we are trying to remove from our minds. We are trying to remove the habitual tendencies, the negative emotions, and that incorrect view, that misperception of how things are. We are trying to get in harmony, let's call it like this. Okay, we want to be in harmony with reality. Because if we are in harmony, there is no thinking that the flower should be something else that is not. There's no trying to change, or not try to grasp, or not try to kind of like be sad if the flower dies, because I understand that the flower will die. It's its nature to die, right? It's reality. Is its own reality. Let's say like this. Does it make sense what I'm saying? Are we communicating?
Yes, we are.
Yes. Okay. So that is why it's so important that we start to understand that, we want to achieve that. We want to really understand, how we are constantly creating about this mental state, this ignorant mind, but more until we start to understand these wrong views of ourselves, these wrong perceptions, we can start from a level above. That's why I did like this. We first need to start to understand these two levels a little bit higher up, so we can start to understand why in our daily lives we get angry at things, right? Why we get, yes, okay, I understand there's a misperception, but I start to understand that I don't want to see things in this way, but it doesn't change, right? I remember many of you saying, always asking me, like, I understand what you're saying. Bob, I think another day he asked that, he said that, but I can still see my mind getting angry. I can still see myself, getting attached. I can see, why is that? Well, that is mainly because of karma. So we need to understand what karma actually is. We need to understand, really try to understand what is creating that kind of like almost no freedom, because it is spontaneous. We are driving, someone cuts in front of us, spontaneous anger arises. I don't have raisins in my breakfast, spontaneous frustration arises, right? I see someone that I feel it is beautiful, immediately spontaneous attachment arises. I see a burrito, spontaneous attachment arises, right? It's easy to see. how the mind's like as I like honestly, if you I use some words, and I know my English is horrible and very bad, but I sometimes use some words that really it's kind of like visual to try to make us understand, but we just slide, into this. A slider, it's called a slider, like where you go to the swimming pool. What is the name of that thing?
Sliding pond.
A slide?
Yeah, sliding pond.
Sliding
Right?
pond.
No, it's a slide.
It's like,
Slide. Okay. So a slide, so that thing that you go and then you go zoom, and then you go into the water, right? That's how our minds like this goes. That's kind of like we think we have some control, because once you are in there, it's impossible. And then the water come, or some, always like with me, some kid would come and then like go on top of me and then like this, right? So that is kind of like the idea. If it's like we're just sliding on this without any type of control. And that is what karma in some ways is all about, right? Karma is, so that's why we need to understand karma and not think that karma is something that exists out there first, right? Because actually we are karma. We are, all of us is karma. But more than also, and trying to understand that even if we don't believe in karma, it doesn't matter, because it's a law. It's like, oh, I don't believe in, how do you say, the law of
Gravity?
gravity? Yes, the law of gravity. It doesn't matter if you believe it or not. It's hitting you all the time, right? So that is the idea of karma. Karma is also not something that is just like, oh, kind of like something from the East, these kind of like hocus pocus type of thing, of these kind of like people over there in the Himalayas and all of that. Not like this. Actually, karma is everything, because karma, the definition of karma is action or intention. So it's something that moves our minds, okay? And therefore, depending on the intention or the movement or the action, right, it will create a certain result. It will create a result. It's just that. So that's why it's important to understand that karma is not only bad karma, because that's normally in the West, when karma, the idea of karma started to come to the West, that's normally what we started to see. Karma as something negative, right? So when someone is very bad to us, someone does something bad and all of that, and then something bad in return happens to us without us doing anything, because we are very nice people. We don't actually want to do anything. No revenge from our side, nothing. Just something happens to us, and then something bad happens. We say, you see, bad karma. You see, the instant karma. There's even my brother sent it to me the other day in Instagram. There's like instant karma. So it's just people kind of like, driving and going to someone, say, you are, and then they boom, like, and the next moment they kind of like crash. And then people think that is karma, right? Instant karma. So if you do something bad, then immediately you get something bad in return. No, that is a very limited idea about what karma actually is. And karma is not only negative. Karma means that if your intention, it's a non-virtue or is a negative, so then we're going to talk about what non-virtue and what negative really means, then the result is going to be an experience of suffering. To whom? You. You are going to be the experiencer. We can say that, experiencer. Yeah.
experience.
The experience of that kind negative intention, negative non-virtual mental state. Okay? But there is also a virtue positive intention. And therefore, you will experience, as a result of that intention, pleasure, happiness. So karma is just a law of cause and effect. If you create a cause that is either negative or either positive, you're going to have then the result, a negative one or a positive one. To whom? To you. You will experience that. So that is what we need to really try to understand. Therefore, when something happens to us, that means when we are having a negative experience, we need to understand that it didn't occur out of the blue. It didn't occur because, something out there is being bad to us, like judging us, or the universe is kind of like playing trick on us. No. We created the intention and the cause, and then we are just experiencing the result. Very important point. We're going to talk a lot about karma, because karma, there's a lot of kind of like, specific things. But what we need to understand is that it's not necessarily that we are conscious about the intention. And not only that we are maybe we are conscious, it doesn't mean that consciousness or that understanding of what we are doing necessarily is coming from what we call wisdom. So it's normally kind of like confused, Bob, just a sec, is normally confused on our idea of wanting to find happiness as a result and not wanting to find suffering. Okay? Bob, do you have a question?
Yes.
Yes.
So you've spoken about our ignorance, and that because we are habituated in our ignorance, we don't intend to have negative virtue, but we experience negative virtue until we have some sort of transformation, hopefully down the road, and we don't.
Yes.
So do we just, does all of that negative virtue, because of our ignorance and the causes and conditions that arise out of the ignorance of our intentions, then just stay with us?
Yes.
Oh, thanks.
You put it very, very simple and direct. Yes, it stays with us. That's why we are in the way we are. It's just tendencies, right? In the sense of we come, that baseline, as I like to say, of ignorance, of confusion, of misconception of how things exist, it's always present. Okay? So karma is important, Roy, just a second. So karma is important for us to understand that it only in some ways it can be completely fully understood when we achieve the state of enlightenment or state of a Buddha. Okay? Because it's just so subtle the way that those cause and effect relationships happens, that right now, if we try to understand, it's very complicated and too much for the mind that we have right now. For example, think about the causes and effects and conditions that make a flower to arise, right? We have like the seed. So where this seed came from, it's a bunch of causes and conditions. So like, the previous tree, or the previous flower, and the honey, and the pollen, and this and that, and all of these, and if you think about it, it's just infinite, right? It's a matrix that is infinite. And then the water, where the water came from, that, if you're going to kind of like really track down that water, let's say like this, where it comes from, it's just like infinite, right? Cause and conditions coming together. The sun, so we're going to go billions and billions. Think about it. Like, if you really think, everything has cause and conditions. So that's why it's so complex for us to understand. So that means that when we have that basis of ignorance of how things exist, that is the baseline. And therefore, when we are talking about positive karma, we are talking about that karma that is trying to get us away from that confusion, from that ignorance.
I couldn't hear it.
Positive karma tries to get us away from that confusion, that ignorance.
Oh,
It's a bit.
I think we got a bad connection.
it
Yeah,
goes
I think maybe
connection.
here is a bit.
No, I think
Better?
it's,
No.
Yeah,
yeah,
it might be there. It might be
every
there
once in
because
a while it's jumping.
okay, because here it's normally when it says in my computer you have unstable connection or something,
Yeah,
but not
It says that in
appearing.
my mind a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Huh?
it's okay.
It
It's
says in
okay.
my mind a lot that I have an unstable connection.
We get 99%.
Unstable connection. Stable connection. So what happens is that when we are trying, what makes a virtue or non-virtues karma is the intention of either in some ways in not only enhancing but continuing the wrong ignorant view. And what makes it virtue is that it's going to be something that will bring us away from that ignorance and closer to reality. Yeah. So any mind that is, any mental state that is kind of like under the influence of ignorance, attachment, low self-esteem, anxiety, impatience, frustration, selfishness, pride, all of that. If all of this is there, therefore, that is enhancing or that is continuing making our minds more negative and more making that ignorant wrong view stronger. Okay, so that, did you guys hear me? Because it was
It's freezing a little bit from sometimes moment to moment, but we're fine.
okay.
we're getting it.
We're
So
getting it.
that is the idea of kind of like understanding why is it called a non-virtuous mental state, because it's kind of like it's enhancing or making us believe or follow or engage into that ignorance, that wrong view, right? And whatever is going to be a positive one, it's going to be a mind that is thinking about love, compassion, kindness, wisdom. And these are mental states that are counteracting that wrong view, that misconception. Why? Because compassion, love, kindness, they are based on understanding that we are interdependent, that we depend on each other, right? Which is reality. Right? We say that all of the things are interdependent because the flower is, or the seed is interdependent with the soil, with the light, with the water and all of that. And wisdom is the mind that is going to see how things really are, so it's going to make us more and more away from that wrong view. So that's why is it called a positive karma, that it is bringing us towards an enlightenment or away from that confusion, away from that ignorance. Okay, I think Roy has a question first. Roy.
Well, I just wanted to go back to what Bob had brought up. Karmic seeds, whether they're negative or positive, when the right causes and conditions come about, those seeds are exhausted. They're not permanent. Even although we get rid of them all when we're enlightened, but in the meantime, through causes and conditions coming about, a negative seed can ripen and be exhausted. Positive
Yes.
seed can be ripened and exhausted. We can also
Yes.
use purification to lessen the severity of the seeds. So it's not
Yes.
an inherently existent phenomena.
Oh, definitely not. But I don't think that Bob was talking about that. Bob was
No,
more,
but it's not necessarily permanent, follows you to enlightenment. Seeds, we create seeds, but we also exhaust them. It's not a static, okay.
So yeah, Roy is
Yeah.
addressing my question very well.
Yes, so I think that this is a kind of like a second moment that we need to understand, Roy, which is like first we need to understand that right now we are because we have ignorance, we're gonna be creating karma all the time. right? So we don't, even if it, yes, in a way we are kind of like exhausting others, we are exhausting, even positive or negative karma, as you were saying, is the idea that we are constantly creating new karma as long as we don't eliminate the cause for them to arise. And that is the main point that I think that I like it. I was going to talk a little bit later, but that is the main point. And everything that we have done in the past, it has still the potential, even if it is exhausted, because we are constantly under the influence of the ignorant mind, we are creating more. So yes, it's different type of karma, but it's still karma, right? So that is the why it's so important that is kind of like we understand that the achievement of enlightenment is freedom from creating karma. So we say that the Buddha is free from karma, right? Because it doesn't create either positive or negative karma, because his mind is in connection with reality, right? However, it is, the Buddha is subjected, let's say like this, to the law of cause and effect. That explains why we cannot eradicate the sufferings or the sufferings of others or anything like that, or why the Buddha can be really wanting from his side to help us, and but if we don't have the intention and the karma to actually like receive that help, it doesn't matter. So it is kind of like the karma is a limitation in some ways. And the Buddha, even though he doesn't create karma and he's like free from that, even though that he doesn't create karma for himself, that means he doesn't experience the results of those actions in that way of like negative or positive, because negative and positive are depending on the inherent existence or the ignorance. Then Buddha is like free from that because he doesn't see ignorance. So everything is just in accordance with reality. But he's subject to the law of cause and effect. That is important. So what you're saying makes total sense in a context a little bit more kind of like forward when we talk about how to exactly, deal with karma in the sense of, okay, so I don't have any choice, No, yes, you do. It's exhausted, you can purify, but the main point is that as long as there is the ignorant mental state as a baseline, as I said, then there's always the creation of karma. There's always this light. This light is always there. Okay, so thank you. It's a very good point. Jack, you want to have a
Yeah. So how does a mosquito become fully enlightened?
Tan, tan, tan,
As a
tan.
human.
He needs to kind of like smell the blood of someone, and then this person is going around a stupa, and then it creates the good karma of being reborn as a human being, and then he studies for eons and eons the Dharma, contemplate and all of that, and become enlightenment. Very easy.
I'll remember that if I'm a mosquito.
I'm not worried.
The thing is that we need to understand is that that is the reason. It's very funny because like I knew that honestly karma and the understanding of reality are the main subject of the Buddhist path, to be honest, right? If you understand those two things, it's like you really got it, a good foundation for understanding the Buddhist path. So why? Because by understanding karma, we understand cause and effect, and we understand our possibility of achieving enlightenment, right? That is really how it goes. And then we understand almost the entire path as well. Why? Because the reason why we start the path, the Lamrim, the first meditation on the Lamrim is Guru devotion. Devotion to devoted to the teacher. Why? Because of karma, because understanding karma. Because I need to create the necessary causes for me to learn, to learn, to study, to contemplate and meditate. And I need someone to teach me that, right? The same way, the second one is the idea of precious human rebirth. So having a human body, but not only that, but a body that works, having freedoms, having all of that, so I can develop that mind, understanding cause and effect, understanding that in the realms of existence, in being an animal, in being a ghost, in being in the different realms, the human realm is the best one for the study of the Dharma. So when you understand karma, you understand that as well, because you understand that, if you need to have a mind and a brain that has the potential to think, analyze, listen, contemplate, meditate. So then if you look, the mind of the mosquito and the mind of, not the mind, the brain of the mosquito and the brain of the human being is much better, right? So when the mosquito then, what it needs in some ways is to create the causes for having that rebirth as a human being, and therefore to meet the Dharma, to contemplate, to meditate, to meet a teacher, right? That's how we say. We say the best thing we can actually aspire for ourselves and others is to find a teacher that will guide us. So then in all our future lives, even if a mosquito, we're going to make sure that, our teachers are going to be there to help us. And if you think about it, Rinpoche, Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Lama Zopa Rinpoche has one of the biggest prayers for all of the different types of animals. He's made, he found in the Buddhist texts, scriptures, that the Buddha had created a mantra called the Nangyalma mantra that says that everything that touches that mantra be reborn as a human being. So Rinpoche used to ask all of the centers and all of the people to have that mantra in your car, in your house, everywhere. Because if the mosquito touches you, touches the car, touches your house, then he's going to be reborn as a human being. Right? So that is the idea of the possibility of the mind to help others. So that's why we did it, the animal blessing and animal liberation, right? I'm seeing Tal here, and then she brought her little cute little dog that made a big poo poo in the center, So he kind of like he was there, and then how do we do it? If you think about the mosquito or the dog, by bringing it to receive blessings, to kind of like make the connection, to listen to mantras, to create those imprints in the mind. Even though that they don't have the intention, they don't have the possibility to decide to do that themselves, we are creating that imprint, that positive karma. Why is it positive? Because if those conditions, these causes, when they come together with the necessary conditions, these will ripen into a positive result that will bring them away from confusion and suffering. Make sense?
Yes.
I
Thank you.
think Debbie's, yes?
Yeah, you said this week about that the seeds have the potential under certain circumstances. If the circumstances and conditions come together, does that apply to like triggers like of anger and emotions? Like we have seeds and then certain conditions then
Definitely the conditions will kind of like be things like that, triggers that will ripen. That's why we say, we're going to talk about, I don't know if we can talk today, but definitely next week we're going to talk about the 4 what we call characteristics of karma, right? And one of them is that karma increases. So that means that
What
intention,
increases?
karma increases. So that means that the same way that from a little seed you can have a completely beautiful tree, a mango tree. Think about a mango tree. I love, or avocado tree. I love avocado. So, from a little seed you have an avocado tree, and that those tree has kind of like fruits, and then give flowers, and then give all of that, right? The same way karma is. So the more we kind of like get, kind of like involved in those kind of like mental states. So the seed is there and the conditions come together, you know, the angry mind or someone triggers us or something like this. So the more it kind of like we enhance those things, the bigger it becomes, right? So that is the idea, Debbie. It's kind of like it's gonna just grow exponentially.
Spontaneously.
Exponentially.
Exponentially. I was like, it was a first word that was missing. Exponentially, right? So the triggers are just gonna become more. And think about it. It's just easy to see in our lives. Very easy to see in our lives. If we are with something, for example, I don't know, something happens and we don't digest, so we keep with that anger with ourselves, we become like made of glass, as I like to say. Everything starts to bother us. So everything becomes a trigger because we are just holding to that negative mental state. So the more we just hold to that, then everything becomes a trigger, everything becomes, so then it becomes more and more and more and more and more until like a snowball, and then we just explode with anyone that says hello, they're like this, right? So that is kind of like the idea of the that mental state, the karma, the quality, let's say, or the characteristic of karma. Does it help? Does it make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, if someone else has any questions, you need to tell me because I cannot see you. So I can only see until half Debbie, okay? So if Sharon has a question, that she needs to tell me, okay?
Okay.
So
Well, I was just, now that you said my name,
I love it.
I was just thinking about, is fate the same as karma? And what about
Mm.
predisposition? Is that the same?
So these are characteristics of karma. So fate is not the same as karma. We do say that one of the qualities or the characteristics of karma is that karma is definite. Definite in what it means. What does it mean definite in the I'm loving that I'm just talking about the characteristics, so it's great. We just go with the flow. So the characteristics of being definite means if you create a negative intention, the result will be an unpleasant, suffering result, negative result. That is what it means definite in that way. So, and then in the same way with the positive intention and the positive, mental state, that can only result into a positive, pleasurable, happiness result. There's no other way. So in that way, that's what it means being definite. But fate has an idea that it cannot be changed. And that is not what it means with karma. Karma intentions can be changed. But once the intention is there, then the result will be definite in that way of being either negative or positive in that way. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, fate can't be changed, you said. You can't
The-
change your fate. It
Think
doesn't
about it. Think about it.
allow for,
Exactly. Fate is like the idea of this light, right? Of this light of like, yes, there's just like gonna slide down, and that's what you have. But karma means that once you actually create the intention, then you also are in this light in that way. Let's say it like that. Bless you. And then the other aspect is, but that means that we can change the intention. So then that is the difference between fate, right? And then, but you asked something else. What it was?
predisposition.
Predispositions. Yes, yeah. So predispositions. It's another characteristic, or that idea of the karma. That karma is, I can only experience something that I have created the cause for experience. So that is another characteristic. So in some ways, it's to say, I can only if I'm experiencing what I have now, or if I am how I am now, is because I created the cause. So I have the predisposition in the way of the cause, the previous cause, for it to be in the way it is now. Does it make sense? Sharon?
I'm still contemplating
Okay.
it.
Good, good, good. No, it's totally fine. It's just because I thought that maybe became a little bit,
Well,
how do I say, like this, right?
is predisposition close to habituation?
I don't know what
Uh,
predisposition means.
Like, to me, it means like habituation, meaning I have, I have,
Predisposed?
yeah, predisposed.
Okay.
I'm habituated, I am predisposed.
So the habituation is the idea that, how to say that is kind of like the karmic seeds, they don't get lost, right? So let's go to the 4 characteristics. I'm thinking about doing that today, but that's fine. So the general aspects, okay? So karma is intentional action. Everything that we do with our body, speech, or mind comes with an intention, an intentional action. That's something that we do. So a thought, speech, a word, and a physical action, right? And such actions, they leave imprints in our mind stream that will influence what we will influence. No, it will directly result in the experience we're going to have in the future. Okay? And these intentional acts, they have 4 general aspects, as we like to say. Okay? So karma, we say the first one, that karma is definite. Definite? Is that what we say? Yes? So
Yes.
happiness, pleasures, positive experiences always comes from positive actions, positive intentions. And pain, suffering, these unpleasant situations only comes from and always comes from destructive, negative, karmic actions, intentional actions. So, if that is the case, why is it important for us to do that? Why is it important for us to be talking about karma? If that is the case, if that is kind of like scientifically, let's say like this, what do we want to do? Which ones we want to plan? Which ones we want to actually do, in our minds? We want positive ones. So understanding karma is the basis for us to achieve the first level, or the more kind of like gross level of our innermost wish to find happiness and find absence from suffering. Because if I understand now that the idea for me to find pleasures, for me to find, kind of like pleasant situations, happiness, or whatever, I'm talking more here about temporary happiness and all of that. And for me, it is to have a intentional, positive intention. Then that's what I want to plant, or that's what I want to familiarize myself more and more and more and more. What happens is that I don't do that because I have so many seeds of, negative, selfish, angry, whatever seeds. Therefore, if I understand that following those mental states, those intentional actions, creates negative experiences for me, what I'm going to try my best to do is to not follow that intentional action, right? I'm gonna try to eliminate myself the most, like with most strength as possible that I can to not follow those, and I'm gonna try to create as much as possible of the positive ones. Because if it is definite, then I don't have escape in that way, right? If I create one, I'm gonna have that result. If I create the other, I'm gonna have a positive one. So I want the positive one to happen more. Does it make sense so far?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
The second aspect is that, but I can't experience a result if I haven't created the cause. So that helps us explain that when something is happening to us, it's not because of external things. It's not because someone else is mean to us. It's not because, God doesn't like us. It's not because the universe doesn't cooperate with us. It's not because it's that. It's because we created the causes. and the conditions came together, and that happened. And that's the reason why. And if we something unpleasant or a negative experience that we are having, guess which type of cause is going to be? What is the causes that created that negative experience that we are having now?
Negative.
Yes. So you see, you found the mathematics, you understood the mathematics of
Equation.
karma. That is so profound and so important, because that is the idea that we normally have to really ingrain in our minds to start taking responsibility in a good and in a bad way. So, when people come to me and say, like, but these rich people, kind of like, they kind of like, they don't care, they're mean to people, they're this, da, da, da. And I say, yes, I can understand that you might see it in this way. But they also did good, positive actions like generosity, so they can be experiencing the result in this life. Do you understand? Everybody who is now a human being has created positive things so they can be a human being. Because being a human being, as we just discussed about the difference with the mosquito, is a good rebirth, is best rebirth. So everybody who is a human being, if we understand karma, we have to see and look at them with that idea of like, well, if this person is alive and is here, it's because they created some positive intention, some positive karma in the past. And now they're experiencing that result. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
Yeah?
I have a question.
Yeah.
What we're talking about right now kind of sounds like the law of attraction. Whatever you do attracts more of that action.
It's not like attract as if you don't have any will. And that is the difference. Karma is will. Willpower is intention. So it's not about kind of like, oh yes, I really want money, so I'm just gonna kind of like think about money and then money will come. No, I need to create the intention for wanting to have money, and the cause for the result to be having money is being generous, offering.
I got it. Thank you. Yeah.
So that is a little bit different than the law of attraction, I think, even though I'm not familiar, even though there's a book, a movie, everything about this law of attraction, but I don't know so much about that. But this is a bit different.
The distinction is that the law of attraction just says all you have to do is think it, and it'll occur. So there is no willpower.
That
There is
sounds
no intent.
great.
There is no
Buying the lottery ticket. You don't
yeah.
need to. Very good. I like this. I think we should adopt that and forget about karma. Karma is like
No.
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 And we check if it works.
Well,
We're gonna realize that if we don't buy the ticket, then it doesn't work, right?
It works for people that have good karma.
Exactly. So that's the thing. It's
That's a
exactly
great
that, Jack.
point,
This
Jack.
is
Great
exactly
point,
the
Jack.
point. This is exactly the point, Jack. I was going to say exactly that. Is that because people don't understand the law of karma, they think that the law of attraction can work, right?
Right.
It doesn't. It's just actually they created the cause. Those people, right? So that's why they are having that. It's not without a cause. That because that is one of the characters. That characters that I'm saying is that it's like there's no result without a cause, right?
right.
So we need to understand that. We really need to understand. So that's why I was saying that the enlightenment is a result. So we need to create the causes. Rinpoche used to make fun. He used to say, if someone really develops bodhicitta and the correct view, even if they don't want, they achieve enlightenment. Because it's just cause and effect. If they don't want, if they just develop, they create the causes to develop in their mental state, their minds, the correct view and bodhicitta, then there's no way that they can escape, enlightenment, because it's just cause and effect. And those two are the basis, compassion and wisdom, right? If you have those, then you're going to achieve enlightenment. So that is something that is extremely important, that we understand that causality, right? That is like the result, if the cause hasn't been created, the result will not be experienced. That is so important. So if you're experiencing something, sorry to say, but you created the cause. I remember my first teachings about karma at Akopan. So this was 12 years ago. We were in a group with like maybe 60 people, and there was just happened a big horrible case of a woman in India that was raped by like 10 men or something like that. It was horrible. And one guy asked, and he said to the teacher, "Are you saying that she created that?" And he was so like kind of like, and then she said, "I'm not saying that she created in the sense that like, oh yeah, it's her fault, like as many chauvinistic mental states would say, it's like, oh, she was wearing a bad blue, like she created the, she was attracting that, or she created that for herself." Not like that. What she was saying is that if that result was experienced, at some point in beginningless lifetimes, she created the causes for that result to appear in this life. I'm not saying this life she created the causes for that result to arise. It's hard, it's hard. But that is the kind of like the law of cause and effect that we're talking about here. So that in some ways is hard for ourselves as well to really, when something happens to us, like for example, I don't know, we are robbed or something goes bad or something like this, that we actually come to the conclusion that if their result is happening, is because we have created the cause for it.
So it's
Right?
like they deserve it. You
I don't
deserve
know
what you
about
get.
that.
It's not about deserving. It's more about, as I'm saying, is a mechanics and mathematical, right? It's just the idea of if the cause hasn't been created, the result will not be experienced. It's not about meriting or deserving, or it's not about meriting. How do you say that? They
Yeah,
deserving.
yeah.
It's not about that. It's not about that. It's just about cause and effect. Yes, Bob. I think just a minute, Roy. I think Bob wanted to say something, or someone else.
And I don't want to belabor this, but I just want to understand it a little more deeply.
Okay.
So all the people who live in Ukraine,
Yes.
who are the victims
Yes.
of that circumstances there,
Yes. Yes.
and go through terrible suffering because of it.
Yes.
You're saying that that's another example of it
Yes.
in reality.
Gaza. Think about Gaza.
Gaza.
Think about, like, Gaza is very special to actually have a look at, because think about what happened with the Jewish in the Second World War. They were genocide. There was a genocide, and what they are doing now, creating genocide. So look at it, kind of like cause and effect just coming again, right? Think about it. Just think about that kind of like cause and effect relationship, right? So they experience the result, and because they kind of like didn't understand karma, because they don't understand, the law, cause and effect, they are now creating the cause for experiencing that result again. That's why I'm honestly, something that for me, I'm not saying that because it's His Holiness the Dalai Lama, but what His Holiness done, I always get emotional when I talk about that. But when His Holiness in 1959, when the Chinese were invading Tibet, and he said, we are not going to create the causes for that to happen again. So we're not going to fight. We're not going to kill anyone. We don't take one single gun to kill someone because we don't want to experience that result again. now is manifesting in this way. That's it. Right? So we're going to transform it. So that is the difference. You know what Sharon was talking about, the fate, you know, is like he decided consciously because of understanding cause and effect. And we had someone like that governing the country. So he said, I'm not only going to do for myself, but I'm going to do for every single person to not create that cause in their minds. So they will not experience the result of having killing others, of having, you know, of coming and resulting, having the result of receiving war, receiving harm in the future. Do you understand that?
Yes.
How powerful this mental state is, how incredible this mental state is, right? So that is the by understanding that cause and effect relationship. And not is not blaming, is not deserving, is not, there's no judgment in that way. It's just if you plant, it's like you plant a apple seed. What is the result?
Apple tree.
It's
Maybe.
just that. It's just that. If the conditions are there, exactly
Yeah,
as you said,
maybe.
if the conditions are there, then that is the result, right? You can't change that cause and effect relationship in that way. You understand what I mean by cannot change the cause and effect relationship? Is like you can't plant an apple seed and have a different result than apple tree. You can't, there's no such thing. Okay? You can't have a orange tree. You can't have a pineapple. No, pineapple tree. No, I don't know how pineapple grows in different avocado tree or like you can't have. Okay, so that is the idea. Like that's why honestly that is one of the reasons why it took me so long to come into the discussion of karma, so we can actually have a much better judgment of that, and not goes into that idea of, because we understand now, you know, negative emotions, we understand that we have habitual tendencies, we understand like the correct, we understand the different views, you know, we understand the misconception, we understand all of that, that gives us that wisdom to talk about that without the judgment, without the Brazilian drama, you know, think about that, like take it out, just look into the cause and effect relationship. Roy, you wanted to say something else?
Yeah, and going back to your example of the woman who was gang raped,
Yes.
so she created the cause in a previous lifetime or earlier, whatever. So, but by being raped, she exhausted that negative seed, that cause. So that negative seed was exhausted, and the people who raped her are now creating their negative seeds to ripen some time in the future.
Yeah. However, what is most important, let's talk about the girl in itself, is the
Right.
mental state that she has while that rape is happening, right? If she's thinking, I'm gonna an eye for an eye, then she's creating.
She's creating a new negative seed.
Exhausting, but she's
She's
creating
creating a new negative seed.
a
But
new
how could you
negative
have a good thought during
seed to
that?
have
But
that,
But the
right?
act of the rape does exhaust one seed. Her intentions or mental
Yes.
state may create
Yes.
an additional negative seed or merit if she
That's it.
has the right
There you
mindset.
go. That is the difference between fate and karma. Is that in that moment she has the possibility of going one way or another, right? She can go into create more negative karma, negative result that might be like, you know, being angry and say, I'm gonna rape all their families and all of that, and go kind of like completely, you know, berserk on that negative mind. Or she can just say, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna kill these people, right? Or whatever it can be, like the negative coming from a, you know, or can be a positive one, say, wow, you know, if I have the understanding of karma, this is exhausting and I don't want to actually, you know, engage anymore in this, to have this suffering. If this is happening, I created the cause, may I be able to help these people, you know, for them not to have the result of them raping me. Can you imagine, think about that, not having the result of raping, like, so they don't get raped, you know, may I help them to not have that result happening. Wow, if you do that, boom, your mind explodes in positive karma, right? Because look, you're transforming that experience, right? That's the idea. That is like you can actually do. That is different than fate. That is the difference than fate.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, dear. Someone else was going to say something. I don't know. Sorry, Sharon, Bob. No, no. Okay. So then the other characteristics, so we talk about two, and then we already talked a little bit about it, that karma is expendable. Okay, so a small cause can lead to a large result, in the sense of like a small seed can come into a big tree. No, so we really need to take care with even letting go of the small little result. Okay, the small little negative intentions. Okay, everything. We need to just really kind of like really be careful, you know? And at the same time, we should really try to create even the smallest positive intention that we can have it. Even if it is just like, you know, one thing that one of my teachers really, I really like, Lama Zopa used to do that, but Kandrila Rinpoche as well. She sometimes, you know, people invite her, or maybe even she decides to go to the to a shopping mall, right? And she doesn't want to buy anything. She just goes around sometimes. And then every moment that she's there, she's offering all of those things that are there in her mind. Everything that she sees, she offers to all sentient beings, to all the Buddhas, to all of these. And then she blows mantras into the objects. So the person who is going to kind of like come over there, right, and touches. So the mantras that we say, that just by touching them, you know, those also the mantras that they have in the prayer flag, some of them is like that the mantra touches whoever they touch, you know, that they can be purified, that they can achieve enlightenment, all of that. So all of this, so she just does like this. So even if you are walking, is like a small little thing, whatever you're doing can become a cause to create positive karma. Does it make sense? Does it? Yeah, that is. So that is the idea of, because even that will expand, you know, with time, that intention will expand. And then the other things that it is like the idea that what we've been talking, and what Roy suggested is that, and that's why that was my answer to Bob, is that the karmic imprints, they do not get lost, and we will experience the result. However, the way this can happen is we can experience the result, therefore they're going to be exhausted, right? But then that means that the karmic imprints didn't get lost, so we experience that result, or they can be purified. They can be purified means they can be like, let's say, burned. It's like the potential for them to manifest in that way, it can be burned. Okay, I just saw that we have a new friend over there. I'm so sorry I didn't say hello to you. How are you? Hello. I'm so sorry that you came in the middle of our karmic kind of like a confusion, you know? We were talking about karma. So we were talking about cause and effect. That's the most important understanding. So the understanding of cause and effect, you know, that is the most important.
So my question on that would be apathy. Where does apathy fall?
What is?
Where does apathy fall within that? In other words, let's say someone does harm to you, instead of thinking a negative thought or a positive thought, you simply have apathy. You simply just don't care about them.
Wow, you touched it on a very good point, because actually, to be completely by the book, there's also what we call neutral karma. When the mind is neither one or the other. The only difficulty with actually providing, for example, we say that when, for example, we are doing something, and then even if we are doing something and then we listen to something, but we don't actually mentally judge, or like I like it, I don't like it, I repulse or I don't repulse, like that sound just kind of like comes into my mind, right? I just listen to it and I don't get any judgment, I don't move, my mind doesn't move, just notice and then it goes. That is what we call a neutral karma, right? That means that there was an impulse, so there was an action, but it doesn't make it any kind of like, judgment of like, dislike, positive, negative, intention, and intention. The problem with the word apathy,
Apathy.
apathy, is that normally, I'm not saying that it is always like this, it is contaminated, okay, with certain aversion. Means I'm just pretending that I'm not being touched. I'm not being kind of like, but it's just a suppression type of mode, right? It's just like, I don't want to feel it. It's like, I don't want to feel it, but the feeling is already there. It's already came, and we say, I don't want to do it, right? It's just very fast. And when just, because of habitual tendencies, it's just like, and then we really disconnect, right, with our own emotions. We disconnect with others. So apathy normally,
You're not expressing it.
sorry,
But you're saying you have these feelings, whatever, you're just not expressing it.
yes, you're just suppressing them, right? Apathy normally is that kind of like, it's an aversion for the feeling, right? In that way, it's kind of like, I don't want to feel that, I don't want to kind of like, I label it bad, I label kind of like, or whatever it is. And so that is the problem, is that is a suppression of that feeling. And we were talking about that, especially in the course that we do it on Thursday. We were doing on Thursday about the transforming the mind. Is that we need to use the manifested emotion so we can transform it. Because if we don't see it, or we don't allow the emotion, we can't use it as a tool or as a source for transformation. Because I'm not even kind of like telling if it is anger, because anger, as we were saying now with Roy, we know with the example of the woman, of being raped, she can use that. She sees that anger, she's like getting angry, but she sees, I don't want to, but she allows that anger, and then she says, I don't want to, because this is going to create me suffering, because I know that if I allow myself to feel anger, it means that I am, if I'm acting out of anger, it means acting of speech, acting of body, acting of mind, thoughts, for example, I will have that result, and I don't want that, right? So it's a choice, it's a conscious choice out of having that feeling. So the process of allowing that feeling to be there is the beginning of it. So that is why it's always important for us to be kind of, and for that is always, I always like to say that if we understand that the reason why the feeling is arising in our minds is because of our karmic imprints, because of that habitual tendency, right? And the reason why that habitual tendency has arisen in our minds is because of ignorance, is because of our wrong idea, that if I do this or if I do that, I'm going to find happiness and I'm not going to suffer. And that the way that we are achieving that is actually not bringing us that result. If we understand that, then we don't have that fear, or we are not judging ourselves for feeling those fears. Does it make sense what I just said? Does it kind of like...
Can you repeat it?
Yes. So what it needs, one of the reasons why apathy happens as well is our own judgment about ourselves, about the emotion, right? We don't want to feel their emotion. We kind of like label it as bad, as negative, or as kind of like, I am not like that, I shouldn't be like that, right? Normally that is the mental states that kind of like comes to our minds when we are just trying to repress, right? That is bad, that is wrong, that is not good, and all of that, which is different than understanding, let's say, when I'm angry and say, ooh, anger is here. If I follow anger, I'm not going to actually, get anything out of it. It's gonna make me bad. It's gonna make me taste bad in my mouth. I'm gonna act in the wrong way. I'm gonna regret later. So why to follow it? So it comes to a conclusion, you know, you investigate that emotion, you see the negative aspects of it, you go from different sides, you see the disadvantages of that mindset, and then you say, I don't want to. So then the moment you say, I don't want to, so what do I want? I want a positive one. So you replace, or you transform that anger into compassion, into love, kindness, something else. So you had it, and you either let it go because you had it. You can only let it go if you have something, right? Or you transform it, okay? Going to the other side, when I don't allow and I repress the emotion, what happens is that I'm judging that based with the reason, the motivation for me of that is because I'm judging as that emotion even arising or even being in myself or is wrong, is like I shouldn't be, I have not, all of those shouldn'ts and hard and like that kind of like, as I say, the whip, bah, 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 you know, like that's what I'm doing. The moment I see that, you know, that if I understand that I'm doing this, what I need to first do is to say, oh, wait a minute. I understand that I shouldn't be doing this because this is not good for me, but it is here. And the reason why it is here is not because I am a bad person, because I am a horrible human being, because I'm a bad father, brother, son, whatever. Is because I have the seed in my mind. I had the potential to experience that. I created that habit of arising that emotion, right? And the reason that emotion is trying to arise is because I thought at some point in time, even in this life, in this moment, that that emotion, that reaction would bring me happiness and not suffering. That is the reason, because that's what we are trying to do all the time, the entire moment of our existence. That's what we are doing. We are constantly looking for happiness and not to suffer. So whatever is manifesting is a result from that. From that wish to not suffer and to find happiness. But because of our confused mind, what happens is that we don't find it. So what we start to do, we start to say, I shouldn't be doing this. No, I should be doing that. No, I should be doing that. So we start to really suppress it. So that is the problem with apathy in that case. So we just need to check if it is just literally a neutral mind or if it is a suppression type of mind. Does it help my new friend?
Yeah, but I think for the person it's selective, right? In other words, you're not gonna be apathetic to everything. You're just gonna be apathetic to certain things. Say, for example, someone does hurt you pretty significantly, and yes, you can treat it as a negative emotion and act on it, or you could see it, hey, what's better? Acting on it, and you're saying that's negative, or
Exactly.
you don't want to convert it, you don't even want to think about it, you just want it gone. Just want it gone. And so apathy is the easiest option. It requires a little bit of thinking.
That's it, because we think it is the easiest option, but what is happening is that is still there. We are not eliminating it from arising, right? Because the pain is still there. And as long as the pain is still there, that pain is going to continue coming, right? And that is the problem.
If you think about it, if you think about it, the whole point is apathy, is you're not thinking.
The thing is, and that is a very good point what you bring, is that we don't have control of our thoughts as long as we think, right? It's actually, think about it, just arise. And then normally it arises at 3 in the morning, you know, when we want to sleep, and then it's just there, you know, as a big kind of like thing in our minds. So that is because of karma and the habitual tendencies. Is even though we might not giving the attention that we think, that just like putting it back, you know, like putting to the back burner, or to the kind of like putting back there, not think about it, you know, it doesn't make it go away. It's just gonna temporarily, right, subdue it in some ways, kind of like hide it, but is it still, as I say, it actually is the worst, because the more you put it, at some point it's going to explode. because we don't have that control. And the karma is just like the tree. It's just going to start growing, growing, growing. That thing is just going to grow, 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 grow. Because it's just that, that's why what in Buddhism we say is that we need to actually create all of that wisdom and those tools so we can deal with whatever is there. As painful as it can be, we can actually go and check what is arising and deal with it in a beneficial way, right? Because it doesn't allow. So there is a benefit when, if it is so much hurt, that maybe we're going to engage into something anger, we're going to kind of like try to go a knife for an eye with this person. So then, yes, maybe just putting aside until we can actually have a more calm mind, it's okay, right? Because why are you deciding to do that? Because you understand that acting in an angry way is going to create suffering for you and for others, and is going to create the habit or the tendency to actually engage in anger again and again, right? So in that way, that apathy becomes smart in that sense, but it doesn't create the kind of like the result of dealing with the problem in the first place, right? So I think that is the kind of like the idea, the goal in Buddhism is to deal with whatever is there in a positive, compassionate, wise way, so we can transform it and stop it. As we said now in the Buddha, in the about karma, is that we want to stop creating those negative intentions. Even if they are not manifesting so much and we are suppressing it a bit, they're still there, popping it like popcorn. Beep, like that, right? And we love popcorn, but we don't want popcorn. That's what we don't want to have, Okay, so I think today we talked a lot. Well, me, again. So but we cover quite a lot, which was good. I was thinking about next week, but it is good. So next week we're going to talk a little bit more about what we call the different types of karma. Okay, we have karma of mind, karma, negative karma and positive karma of mind, of speech, and of body. And we're going to give some kind of like what we call examples. We call them 10 non-virtues and 10 virtues as examples of actions of body, speech, and mind that can help us understand a little bit of this cause and effect relationship. And we're also going to see what we call the 4 types of result that we have when we actually, there's not only that cause and effect, directly cause and effect of result of kind of like, okay, if I kill someone is going to kill me. There's more than just that, that result of killing actually creates more results than just that one. Okay, so let's make sure that everything that we listened to, everything that we talked, everything that we learned, everything that we contemplated, everything that we really kind of like got from this class, let's make sure that we don't use it only for making ourselves feel a little bit better now, but really create us the intention to transform our minds, to plant the right seeds in our minds, in our consciousness, and eliminate the negative, karmic seeds, so we can be happy and we can help others to achieve happiness as well. Okay, that is the intention that we need to always be creating. So that's why we dedicate with that intention. Let me use everything that I do in my life, everything that I see, every person that I, again and again and again and again and again. So we create the habit for that to happen. Okay, so thank you so much. And as I said, we would not be here if it was not for the benefit of our teachers. This is the main cause in some ways for this center to exist and for these people. I'm just a parrot, but I received so much from my teachers, and they created those causes in their minds and they are sharing with us. So due to their kindness, so a long and healthy life for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, which is very, very special to the entire world. And Lama Zopa Rinpoche, our teacher, to come back and continue helping us. And then, of course, for Thubten Ling to have all the conditions to exist again and again in a space where our friend can come and we can talk about karma, in a kind of like in South Florida. That's the best we can do. So thank you very much. See you tomorrow, 7:30 in the morning for those braves of heart. And I see you tomorrow.
See you in the morning.
Wonderful.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Good
Thank you.
night.